Hi, I'm Marjorie Healy, and welcome to another episode of Behind the White Picket Fence, where life is both messy and beautiful. Today, I have Catherine Roscoe Barr from The Life Delicious. She is a neuroscience-based wellness coach, and I am so excited to have her on. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Marjorie. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So I met you at a triathlon that I was not doing, my children were doing, and I think we said back in 2016.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, we sort of connected and followed each other through social media, one of the beautiful benefits of social media.
Yes.
And I we're both in the coaching industry, and I thought it'd be so great to have you on because, you're a wellness coach, and I talk all the time. I'm sure all of my parent clients are tired of hearing me say self-care. You need to take care of yourself.
Yes.
So, both of our industries align quite well, and I just felt that you would be a benefit to my clients to listen to you, listen to what you do, what you offer, and how you can help. So I wanted to start today by, can you just share a little bit more about The Life Delicious, which I just love the name, by the way.
Thank you.
Is
Yes. So
Yes,
it's
go ahead, jump in.
it's kind of a long story, but in a nutshell, I got a neuroscience degree because I wanted to be a doctor. And
Okay.
during my university years, I discovered fitness and I started taking fitness classes, and then I became certified as a personal trainer and a group fitness instructor. And so when I graduated, I shifted into health promotion rather than treating disease.
Okay.
And I worked in gyms, all kinds of different gyms, big gyms, small gyms. I was the fitness director at a retirement home. So I saw what was possible, for relationships and health and well-being. My oldest clients were 98 and 102. They were a couple who were still madly in love and physically active and mentally well. Um, and then I got really burnt out and I left fitness and I became a freelance writer, and I wrote about design and travel and food and wine. And during that time, I had not been well. I was not practicing what I was preaching. I was suffering from depression and I wasn't exercising or sleeping well. I wasn't following any of the advice I was giving clients, which is part of why I was so burnt out and I left. And as I sat alone in my robe writing freelance stories, I started to suddenly feel well. And I kind of reverse engineered how I got there. And I created my curriculum, and I swore I would never work with clients again. And at the moment I realized that it had felt really simple to shift into like true well-being, whereas I had tried so hard before and failed.
Okay.
I was like, I have to share this with people.
Yeah.
And so one day I was stretching and it felt so amazing. And I said, oh, this feels so delicious. And my husband said, you can't call a physical movement delicious. And a few days later, I said, honey, I registered a business name. It's called The Life Delicious. It's about every part of your life feeling delicious, the way you eat, the way you connect with other humans, with nature, the way you move your body, the way you sleep, and also the way you eat. And so this curriculum I created, I got ready to launch and share it, teaching privately. And right as I was getting ready to launch my wellness coaching practice, a series of really awful things happened to our family. My husband was hit by a car. My dad was really sick. I miscarried and was really sick. We got kicked out of our apartment. My husband lost his job. It was just like every possible horrible thing that could happen. And we looked at each other and we said, how are we okay right now? Like, we are more okay now than we've been. And I was like, it's because we're practicing this stuff. And I kind of told a few friends, I'm going to launch this wellness coaching thing, but I am in no shape to help anyone with their wellness right now because I am such a mess. And a few of my friends said, no, I need this now. And so I started with half a dozen clients, and I've just been building on that. And I thought, how do I impact more people? And so I started doing retreats where I could have, 1, 2, 3 dozen people at a time and share the same curriculum with them. And that was in 2013. So it's my 10th year in business this year as a wellness coach. And I just had my, I think, 16th retreat. And I love what I do. And I'm so grateful because in teaching, I'm reminded. And I think it's such a blessing because I need daily reminders on what what I should be.
Yeah, we're cutting in and out a little bit. I don't know why, but
Ah,
hopefully it's done. It doesn't happen again because we've had such no problem as we
I
said
know.
don't know what's happening. Hopefully the problems have cleared. I will say that's such an interesting comment you made. Like through helping others, you're having those reminders, and I would say that happens to me too. I say that my clients help me be a better parent because I'm talking about it all day long, all the time, and it keeps me so present to what I'm doing.
Yes.
Right, and it's hard because you're right to help other people. You also want to be practicing, your own journey of wellness. So that's,
Yeah.
I love your story, and it's interesting that you say like in times of crisis, because that must have been horrific and frightening and overwhelming, and yet you were doing okay because you were practicing your wellness.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
10 years, all these retreats, was it hard to put yourself out there and say, I've got this retreat idea, everyone come and join?
Yes, it was very hard and very like such a learning curve. No one I knew was an entrepreneur. I had no idea how to run a business or have a business, but I just knew, when I read Arlene Dickinson's book, and she defined entrepreneur as someone who like doesn't want to do things other people's way. And I was like, this is why I'm, like I'm such, I just like doing things my way, and it's been such a crazy journey. It's been so fun and rewarding and so hard and challenging and
Yeah,
all the
very
things.
challenging for sure. It's very hard to put yourself out there. And I always say, I know I'm so good at my job. I feel very confident doing my job, but I'm not, I'm working on what it's like to truly be an entrepreneur, because it is a journey that you go on every day and it's a little bit different
Yeah.
each day, and trying to figure it out. That piece is a whole other sector. I think when you're in, running your own practice, people forget that too,
Yes.
that it's not just the actual role you play in your practice. You also have this entirely other role of a business owner.
Yeah.
And so it's challenging, it's tricky. Okay, so tell me this. So there's retreats and there's also one-on-one. So how, or maybe are you not doing one-on-one anymore? Do you still offer that?
I do within my coaching circle. So I have a women's coaching circle I do twice a year. It's 12 weeks long, and you can do just the group coaching sessions or additionally purchase private sessions as well.
Okay, so people could access you one-on-one if they.
Yes.
And then how many people come to the retreats, and what are the retreats like? Can you explain what that experience is like? And 'cause I think our listeners would want to know, what does it look like to go to a retreat with a neuroscience-based wellness coach? Because we should unpack, what happens there and what you do and how you deliver that in that forum.
Yeah. So what I teach in one word is mindfulness.
Okay.
And the definition of mindfulness is to be aware of how your thoughts, words, and actions make you feel. Your life experience is how you feel. It
Yes.
doesn't matter what's happening around you. Everyone reacts differently. So it's all about managing how you feel and awareness of how you feel. And so I teach everything through a mindful lens and a neuroscience-based lens. Like, we have so much control over our nervous system through our mind. We can calm ourselves through intentional breathing. We can move our bodies to metabolize cortisol. There's so much we can do. And so I teach this mindfulness based, science backed curriculum of 5 pillars, which is mindset, movement, nutrition, sleep, and connection to yourself, to other humans, and to nature. And I teach the same curriculum in any format that I teach through my coaching circles or retreats. But at a retreat, I get to take care of you in person. And it was so amazing the way that it kind of transpired, that I initially rented a yoga studio and cooked the food and set up the chairs and set up the tables, and people didn't sleep there. And it was like all just me, who's not an event planner, trying to make that happen. And then just like through, I don't know, just universal greatness, I was contacted by some hotels and asked to do wellness retreats there. And I just thought, perfect. People who excel at event planning can partner with me, and I can curate every moment that these people are with me, so that I can ensure they're sleeping well and that they're nourished and that they have time to relax and absorb the information, and that I'm teaching them things, and then we're actually doing it together. We exercise together and we eat together and we think about how it made us feel. And so that's over 4 days now. And I'm working with the most amazing hotel. Actually, Condé Nast named them the #1 hotel in Canada, the Oak Bay Beach Hotel in Victoria. And they just have beautiful mineral pools built into the rocks at the edge of the ocean. And it's just like absolute luxury. The food is incredible. And I think the feedback that I get the most from every retreat is how all of these strangers come together, and my goal is to create a safe space where they can be vulnerable and open, and everyone realizes we all have the same struggles and can share. I'm teaching one thing, but when everybody shares with each other, they're just like, the information just sinks down on such a deep level, and you realize you're not alone and that you can do this, and you get ideas from other people. And so the format is like maybe 60% of me teaching, 20% personal reflection and writing, okay, how could this specifically apply to my life? And then 20% group sharing. Everyone has a turn to go around and say, this is how I'm, processing and relating to the information you shared. So hearing dozens of people say that, it's just like, it's magic. It has nothing to do with me. It's just magic that is from the people that show up.
Isn't it? It's one of your pillars. It's connection.
Yeah, exactly.
Creating connection. That is so beautiful. I have shivers. My sister and I, on the side, we had discovered with my mom this ranch, like a working ranch in Wyoming, and we've gone 4 or 5 times together. And
wow,
when you meet it's all farm tables, and you meet the most incredible people from all over the world, who are having this shared experience and love animals and horses, and it's just a nature, and it is you leave every time feeling like you have a new family. So I imagine your clients feel like they've left with a new family.
Yeah, it's really magical. I'm just a mess of tears at the end of every retreat.
I bet. 'Cause it is really magical to watch people to grow, and to watch people
Yeah.
expand the lens in which they view their own lives. Because one of my goals as a coach is to open up that lens and how they see themselves as a parent, how they see their family, how they see their children, how they view their relationships, and expand that so that they aren't looking at it from such a narrow perspective. And when you're in it, and you're doing it every day, it's very hard to create that mindfulness.
Yeah.
So your retreats, what I love about it is it kind of plucks them out of their everyday life and gives them a way to look at it from afar for 4 days, to step out and say, oh, how do I want to do this? And what's going well? And what would I like to shift? And why? And what parts of this retreat do I want to bring back into my daily life? And how will I practice that? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and you are doing exactly what I want people to leave with. And that's the ability to self-coach. And all self-coaching is asking good questions. And that list of questions you just asked, like, they're all constructive questions, because we can ask ourselves destructive questions. Why is this happening to me? And then you get bad answers, and your identity, like you talked about expanding your identity. That's such an important part of the journey of being well. Having success is what you believe possible, and asking yourself good questions. We spend so much time. That's a huge part of my curriculum, is developing the ability to self-coach.
Right. And learning, you're right, because it's true. We're our worst critics if we're not careful. And
Yes.
and as parents, I see this on regularly, because parenting is so challenging and tricky, and because our children are bringing up issues from our past and reminding us and challenging us. They're challenging our patience. They're challenging, how we set boundaries for ourselves and for them. How do we guide? How do we teach? What does that look like? And it's a tough time, and we trip and we fall because we're learning on the job. And same with wellness, right? We're learning while we're doing it. And it's difficult to not be hard on ourselves sometimes, or to say, oh, I think I failed at that, or that didn't go well, or to lie in bed at night worrying about, well, I don't know if I did a good job, or I hear this all the time, I wonder if I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
Which is
Oof.
a funny thing to ask yourself. Instead of saying, exactly as you said, what do I want to do better tomorrow? Or what would I like to practice? Because
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel this way. I always say parenting is a practice. It's not,
Yes,
and I think wellness is a practice.
it is. That's one of my favorite words.
Mm,
To practice is to apply knowledge and skills.
That's it.
And science is to gain knowledge through observation and experimentation, and like that's what wellness and parenting is. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So this is a good time to ask you this question, because I wanted to ask you, because through Instagram, I mean, my children are older. I have twin 20 year, almost 20-year olds, and I have a 15-year-old, and three beautiful, amazing boys who have taught me how to be a fabulous mother. But I've watched you over the years, lean into your own motherhood journey, and I'm just curious because I think seeing wellness pre-motherhood and what wellness looks post-motherhood, and how has becoming a mother shifted how you practice your own wellness and how you coach other people to be well.
Yeah. It has been so huge and so transformational and just so much more than I thought it would be before I became a mother, which is when we met. And
Yes.
it was right before I got pregnant. And I contacted you because your boys, as they raced past me at 14 years old in a triathlon, they were so kind and they told me I was doing an amazing job. And I was like, I need to meet these kids' mother. She must be amazing. And that's how we connected.
You.
Yeah. And you are. And so I had a really, really difficult time as a new mom. I had an amazing pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. I was fit. I took care of myself. And I think I focused on that too much. I hadn't really paid attention to parenting. My husband and I had been together for 20 years at that point, and we hadn't thought we wanted to have children. And then some close friends of ours did, and we thought, oh yeah, that looks fun. Let's try that. And then we got pregnant right away. And, after I had the miscarriage I mentioned earlier, the second time around. And so I had such a hard time. We didn't have a lot of support around us. And my husband went back to work after a few weeks, and he works in films. Who was gone like 65 hours a week. And it was just me. I didn't even know how to change a diaper.
Right.
Like sleep is so important. I just was not taking care of I went from like, I felt like I was the happiest, healthiest person I knew to just like the polar opposite. And it was so shameful, like as a wellness coach, to feel so unwell. And like, I thought I was going to rock being a mother, and it would be so intuitive, and I would just be this earth goddess. And I was like, what do I do with this baby? And it shook me hard. It just absolutely almost broke me. And then as I put myself back together, it's kind of like the Japanese art of repairing pottery with gold paint. I don't know what it's called, but it's the end thing is stronger and more beautiful. And I feel like that's been the journey. I'm still figuring it out. My daughter is almost 6 now. And so it's been about learning to kind of have harmony of being, I was so selfish for so long because it was just me and my husband, that I poured all of my energy into me, and I'm such an introvert. And so learning to, give energy to another person when I felt like I didn't have enough for myself was a real journey. And so it kind of helped me reprioritize and get more motivated to take care of myself, because I saw like I am grouchy and impatient and not creative and not someone I want to be around when I'm depleted. And so it's something that I'm more able to share with clients now. Like, you have to put your mask on first. You have to fill your cup.
Yeah.
And, looking at it from a nervous system perspective, when you're in fight or flight, you're not creative and compassionate and good at problem solving. You're just rigid and closed. And so I really make a point every day to try and fill my cup, wake up earlier than my family and fill my cup so that I am the version of myself that, I can respect that I feel good about.
You feel good
And then
about.
and then I'm such a better mother, even though I'm figuring it out on the fly and I don't know, so much about children. They're such incredible teachers, and to come at parenting from a place of being resourced,
Right.
feeling good mentally, physically, spiritually, it makes it so much easier. And especially in partnership, like I notice with my husband, when we're depleted, we're much more like snippy at each other. But when we're full, we can just be like, oh, you're doing a good job. This is really hard. We're nailing it, instead of like, you screwed up. It's so interesting personally and in partnership how your well-being affects your family. It's so interesting. So I'm so grateful to have, my daughter's just amazing and I adore her.
Yeah.
And so that has been incredible, but also to be a coach, having the experience of being a parent. A lot of my parents I was coaching before I became a parent, were like, talk to me when you had a kid. Like,
Oh.
because I would be like, well, my morning routine is 2 hours long. And, and they're like, I have like 2 minutes. What am I, how am I supposed to do that? And so now that's a big part of my curriculum. Take a habit and have multiple plans for it. How can it expand or contract? You need to check your mental health. So can you meditate in 5 breaths versus an hour? Absolutely.
100%.
Every second of self-care is significant. And like we were talking about before we started recording, modeling is almost more important than teaching. And so in seeing mommy and daddy get up early and go down to the gym every morning and meditate and talk about nourishing our bodies and like the importance of winding down to sleep. Like I hear what she says to other people and I'm like, yes, like she's getting it.
Because she's watching it. But I love what you said. It's interesting. There's a little meme out there that says, never go a nevering. And it's sort of like saying, this is never going to happen to me, or I'm never, I'll never let that happen. I've got this.
Yes.
Interesting. Your clients challenged you a little bit on that. Well, wait till you become a parent, because you're right. Your time changes, and it's just through the product of being a parent. You don't have the same amount of time to play with.
Don't.
It's the reality of the situation. And so when you look at that, I love what you said. So you take a habit and you have to know that habit can expand or contract depending on your day or any given time in your life. So, you might be on vacation with your spouse and now you're both available, and maybe someone can take over when you get some more time that you don't normally have. And maybe your yoga goes from 5 minutes to an hour, because you have that ability in that given moment. And it's so important for parents to practice these habits in small amounts of time and not just saying, well, I don't have time, so therefore I can't.
Yes, that's how you are consistent for a lifetime. It's a huge part. At the end of my retreats, everybody has sort of 3 goals they walk away with. And we look at them from how do you expand and contract that, and how do you make it a plan A, B, C, and D? Like what happens if you do it in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening? What if it's 5 minutes? What if it's 5 hours?
Right.
Because then it's possible to be consistent for a lifetime. I often do a 2, 3, 4, 5 minute workout.
Right.
I'm able to maintain a moderate fitness level, even when things are crazy, because I can check that box. I exercised, even if it was 2 minutes, and that shifts my identity about who I am and what I believe is possible. And that's really big.
Yeah, mindset's really, really interesting. I had a client recently, and I won't, obviously for client confidentiality, can't go into detail, but she had something big coming up and she said, yeah, it's not going to work out. And I said, yeah, you're right. And she said, what? Well, yeah, you're right. It's not. And so we went into mindset and we started talking about how we can shift that with our language that we tell ourselves. And anyways, she did, and she came back to me, and not only did it work out, but prior to it working out, she said to me, I want to tell you that you've completely changed my viewpoint on that. And it was really sweet. It was a micro moment in a larger coaching situation, and
Yeah.
it was something happening outside of her children per se, but it was happening in her greater family. And
Yeah.
I look at family as the health of the entire unit. Like, is everybody getting what they
Yeah.
need? Because it shifts, and if you have one children or five children or six children, then everything has to keep shifting and moving, and it's a bit of a dance at times,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes your workout is 2 minutes, and I love what you say to yourself and how you view yourself in your role as a mom, as an individual, as a wife, as a human being, as a daughter or a sister, is huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. And what you say to yourself, and it's interesting, our thoughts and our beliefs about ourselves in our life.
Yes. And once we start to bring awareness to that, I have a self-coaching model, and then step one is to discover, to bring that awareness. Like, what am I saying to myself? What do I believe is possible? Because that's like, if you don't remove those barriers, then it's going to be such a struggle. It's going to take like 10 times more energy. But if you can shift that inner dialogue and notice yourself, being destructive, and shift it and be constructive, then you have all this extra energy to just go for your goals.
To go for it, right?
Yeah.
Because isn't that it? I always tell the story, and it's actually on the first page of my book. That's not quite done yet, but it's very close. And the book that's taking forever, I call it, but it's coming. And I wrote on the very first page, well, right after I did a little prelude, and I said, I think I was around 8, I announced to my family that I could tread water for 2 hours, and they all said I couldn't do it, so I jumped in the lake and I did it. And it was a moment in time. I had nothing to prove to them. Obviously, I wanted to do that, but it's this moment in time where you are what you believe you are, and you can do what you believe you can do. And if you don't think you can do it, then you're right, you won't be able to do it. And shifting that viewpoint, and that's why I love your retreats and even your coaching circles, right? Even if you take an hour once a week to set aside and become aware, then
Yeah.
you're practicing it. You're awakening to yourself. And you said this, and I kind of want to end on this note, and then let's talk about the dates of what you do and what you offer, so that our listeners can come. But you had said about, you had read in a book and about the best thing you can do for your child is be well yourself. And I think the best thing you can do for all your relationships, because your child
Yeah.
is just a relationship you're developing, right?
Yes.
As they grow. And it's a little tricky because they're going through their own development at the same time. But I think the best thing we can do for all of the people that are in our lives is be well.
Yeah.
And some of my clients come to me and they're just looking to increase their toolbox, and it's a little bit different. And then some, we're just kind of adding to their repertoire of ways that they can practice parenting on a surface level, and it's still helpful. But some of them come to open up, talk more deeply about their own experiences as a child, talk more deeply about where they're getting stuck, where their children are behaving in a way that might kind of trigger their response to not be what they want it to be. And that's quite deep. And the ones who really get it, they'll say to me, "Oh, I didn't realize when I came here." I mean, part of them must have realized. There was a piece of them that knew. But I didn't realize when I came to you that this was going to be about me. And I said, yeah, it's all about you and how well you are. Because the more well you are, the better you can show up. And that's why I love having you on, because what you're doing is getting people to be well, right?
Yeah.
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 And it's so great. And I think indirectly that happens with me, but I think for you, that's directly what you're offering to your clients. And I think I think there's such a synergy for what we both do. And
Yeah.
I was so important to me that when I decided to do this podcast, that people knew who you were and what you do,
Thank
because
you.
that's, if they're not going to see it through the route of parenting, that they have a direct access route to attaining that awareness of their own wellness, right? Okay, so with all of that said, I can be long-winded.
I love it.
I'll own it. With all of that said, talk about I know we've gone through it, that you offer the coaching circle and then you offer the retreats. So tell people the times of year those are offered, and where they can go to find you and learn more and to register for your offerings.
All right. Thank you. Yes. So every September and March, I offer a coaching circle, which is 90 minutes a week for 12 weeks. And so it's going through the same content, but in chunks with more time to digest it. And then every January, I do a wellness retreat that's 4 days at the Oak Bay Beach Hotel. And as I was saying before we started recording, like 70% of the women who come to my coaching circles have been to a retreat, because it's nice to have that like intense weekend of learning and then go back into the world and practice it, and then have more like individual help, because we all need help remembering to practice this stuff. I mean, I just get daily reminders because I'm teaching people and I'm like, yes, I got to keep doing that.
Wow.
And so those are my offerings, and I'm working on a book too, which is and it will be about my curriculum. So it's a way for people to learn to self-coach around those 5 pillars of wellness, and that'll be out in a couple of years.
Oh, that's so exciting. That's so exciting. Okay, so where can they find all this information to register and to get in touch with you?
Yes, my website is thelifedelicious.ca.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll include that in the link, or I'll add a link to that when we promote this. And I can't thank you enough. This was so.
Oh, likewise. I just adore you, and I'm so inspired by what you're doing. It's so important. So thank you.
You're so welcome. And that's so mutual. I feel the same. And I will definitely, I said to you earlier, I can't believe I haven't done one of your retreats. So I think it would be so nice to come and do that. And we can do this again and share on a deeper level after I've experienced you kind of more firsthand and off of social media, where the real beautiful life lives, right? Social media is so nice, but it's nice to get off of it. So we could probably do this a couple of times,
I would love that.
And maybe even share more deeply about each of the pillars, because I know I have pillars of wellness too, and they're fairly similar, but there's a few little differences. So even doing a whole podcast on that would be lovely.
Yes, would love that.
Well, so much for us to do that lies ahead, and I'm so glad for this connection. And I hope all of our listeners enjoy this episode and get in touch with you, because I think you have so much to offer.
Thank you, Marjorie.
Oh, thank you for coming on.